Welcome back to the series. This is episode 2 of the Ideal OneChunkMan. I'm Source Chunk. If you'll remember last episode, we had just finished up with the first chunk in Lumbridge, and we are about to go to our second one. So, without further ado, let's hop into this week's episode and see what I've accomplished so far. Alright, to start the episode off, I'm going to bring the first installment of a recurring segment I like to call Follow-Up and Things That I Missed. So, last episode, we basically covered everything, but there was a couple things that I forgot to do, either because it slipped my mind or I didn't think about it. So the first thing is that I actually completed a clue last episode. I completed a beginner clue, just from, I think it was one from Goblins. It was a one-stepper, I think, and just had me talk to hands, and I never opened it. I was saving it to the end of the episode, and I totally forgot. So I will do that in a second. The other thing I forgot was someone mentioned in a comment last episode that I technically shouldn't have backlogged the cook chicken task because although I don't have a way to train cooking, that's level 1, so I am able to do so. So I may as well do so. The cooked chicken can be gotten obviously by cooking a raw chicken, and I can get raw chickens from imps, so I already have a couple from my imp grind, obviously, so I'm going to go ahead and cook that and open this clue now. Okay, so mind runes, chaos runes, and cooked herring. Not exactly the best, but I guess that's about what you'd expect from a clue like this. But anyway, let's get into the real meat of the episode now. Alright, well the first thing I'm going to do I think is the most important, which is finally finishing Cook's Assistant. I mean, we were so close last episode and we couldn't finish it since we didn't have access to a bucket of milk, but now that we have this cow field, we can milk a cow, and I've already done so and grabbed some buckets of milk, so I'll go ahead and turn one in and we can complete the quest there, as well as start Recipe for Disaster, although we won't be able to continue that until we unlock quite a few more chunks. But thank God, finally able to complete this. And as a plus, we get to use the range here, which is actually pretty nice. It's decently close to a bank, and it's a good range too. It has a decent burn rate chance, so that's gonna be great. So if you remember the end of last episode, we had just finished picking the northern chunk above Lumbridge, which gives us access to the Lumbridge cow pen finally. And that triggers a 42 cooking grind for us, since we now have a primary way to train cooking, and that grind is towards the fried onion that we can make. So the plan I have currently is going to be going and killing cows. I'll probably pick up the cow hides and bury the bones, but the most important part is grabbing the raw meat, obviously, bringing that back to the bank, cooking it, and doing that until I get to 25 cooking. Then at that point, I can go ahead and make stews. There's a potato field on the northern half of the chunk, and I can pick potatoes there and denote them at the tool leprechaun over by this hops patch here. From there, once I've collected enough, I can go back to the bank, fill some bowls with water, and then add the raw potatoes that I picked to make incomplete stews, and then from there add the cooked meat that I got from doing the 1 to 25 grind and making an uncooked stew, and then going down to the range to cook them. This isn't going great, is it? I'm burning a lot of these actually. Oh geez. Um, let's try to find a different way to do this. Alright, so the new plan. I actually really like this plan. We go to the chicken coop next to the cow pen, and we bring an inventory full of bowls, drop half of them, and we can search the coop in the chicken pen here to get infinite amount of eggs just by spam clicking, and we can then combine the eggs with the bowls in our inventory to get like these raw egg bowls, and from there you can cook them into scrambled eggs. So what I'm doing, I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but this is the way I'm currently doing it, is I bring the full inventory of bowls, drop half of them, fill the other half with eggs, then combine them together, then pick up the bowls that I put on the ground, drop the raw egg mixtures that I've just made, and then do the same thing with the other half of the inventory. Pick up the other parts of the eggs, so I have a full inventory of uncooked eggs, and then I go over to this cooking pot here, which basically acts the same way as a normal fire. So just saves me from having to bring like an axe and a tinderbox or whatever. And then I cook them on there, and they're really nice actually. So what's great about them is that I don't burn them nearly as often as stews because they require like half the cooking level. On top of that, they are definitely better XP than just cooking normal meat, and they're really, really fast to collect. So I'm a big fan of this method actually, and I think I'm going to stick with this until 42 cooking because it actually seems quite strong. There is one downside to this method, and that is having to claim the bowls back because it's quite a long way from the bank, so I'm probably not going to bank very many of these, but to get your bowls back, if they burn, you can just left-click empty them, which is great, and you get the bowls back immediately, but if you don't burn them, which is obviously what we want for XP, you have to eat the scrambled eggs. So let's just say by the end of this, I'm going to be very fat and full of scrambled eggs, probably about 1,000 or 2 of them. Alright, so I've been doing the scrambled eggs for a while now, and although it is pretty annoying to have to eat the inventory after you make it, especially since my burn rate is going down and down, which means my eating rate is going up and up, it's actually pretty relaxing to be honest. It's a good amount of relaxing while you're waiting for the eggs to be added to the bowls, and there's a good amount of relaxing while you're waiting for the eggs to be cooked, and then a bit of clicking in between all that, but it's not too bad in all honesty, and the XP rates are decent, so I only spent a couple hours doing this. But here is 42 cooking, and that is a chunk task off the list. We're all set to go. We also need to actually cook the onion at some point before we complete the chunk. Right, so with the 42 cooking done now, it was time to do the final task of the chunk, which was 10 thieving to pickpocket from the normal farmers over by the chicken coop and everything. So the only way I have the train is from men, so it wasn't too bad, but right-clicking and having to right-click pickpocket everything isn't great, obviously, but all in all, it wasn't too bad. Alright, well, while we're here, I may as well show you the bank and keep you up to date on stuff. So here is the cooking tab, and that's all the supplies that either I didn't use with the raw potatoes, obviously picked too many based on how many stews we made, and also the cooked stuff. So obviously didn't bank very many scrambled eggs, but we have a couple. And then the other part of the bank, you might notice the large cash stack, which should be about half that much maybe from the first episode, but yeah, so between episodes, I was doing a bit of work while I was editing and stuff, so I got my wood cutting up to 75 from like 68, 69, and got my fletching up to 68, as you can see here. And this is just kind of, it's a good AFK activity, and when I'm editing, it's nice to be able to do something rather than having to like log off the account, because I can't do some of the more intensive stuff while I'm editing and while I'm doing other stuff. So it's useful, and also going forward, it's going to be potentially good if we ever run into a longer woodcutting grind or a longer fletching grind. So I'm going to continue doing that between episodes. So if you see the cash stack go up and you see my levels go up for that stuff, just be aware I'm AFKing at willow trees doing the same thing we did in the first episode. Okay, so the only things left to do in this chunk are actually do the chunk task. So let me go ahead and cut this onion up and fry it. Hopefully doesn't burn. Great. And then let's go pickpocket a farmer. There we go. I might stay at this farmer for a bit actually, just while I'm gathering my thoughts on where to go next exactly. But I think I know which direction I want to go, so I'll see you guys in a second on the chunk picker screen. Okay, so let's talk about the next chunk that we're going to do. So out of all the 6 options here, number 5 I think is definitely our best bet. So it does 2 things for us. Number 1, it's going to give us a new quest to start and finish, which is the sheepshear quest in that little farmhouse there, which is nice because we'll get the quest points out of it, we don't want to check it off the list, and it's not going to add anything to the backlog since we're completing it all in one go, so there's no issue there with things being more complicated. And then second of all, it unlocks another quarter third, whatever, of the sheep pen there, which means that we'll have more than 3/4 of the sheep pen unlocked for whenever we need to train crafting at some point in the future, because this is our probably best way to train at level 1, and it's not a great way, so the most amount of sheep pen that we can have unlocked going into that grind, I think the better, basically. So I don't think that there's anything else there, and we can actually check that if you want. There is a way we can right click and go to the potential chunk tasks here, and if it says none, that means that there is likely, not guaranteed, but likely not to be any new chunk tasks there. The only exception would be if there is an underground area that we unlock, and you can double check in the connections tab here. You can see there's Puro Puro there, which would actually trigger a lot of grinds if we could get to Puro Puro through the wheat field there. However, since we don't have the hunter level to do that, we won't gain access to it. So I think the no chunk task is correct here for the chunk picker telling us that. Remember, like I said, it doesn't have quests on it, so it won't show sheepshear as an option for a thing that we have to do yet, but we know this. So I say we go ahead and unlock that, and then we can decide on the next real option past this, because this is obviously going to take all of 5 or 10 minutes maybe. Alright, with that quest done, we're on to the next chunk, and this is going to be a real pick this time. That one I just wanted to get out of the way, so we have a nice 3 chunks to work with going forward. And the 4th chunk is going to be a decent sized one. So what I'm thinking is I'd like to go towards 3 in Varrock. I think it'd be nice to unlock another city like Varrock. Having more banks would be nice for sure, and there's a lot of stuff up there that I'd like, especially if we're going to eventually do smithing at one point. I want a real anvil that's close to the bank, and having the west anvil would be great there. Even the east anvil would be better than what we currently have, which is just a bronze anvil in Lumbridge. So let's work our way up there for the time being, and then after that we'll decide where we're going to go if we make it that far in this episode. So going to 3 is going to do a couple of things. It's going to unlock the wizard circle, the dark wizard circle there, and they're going to have some drops that we need. Let's go ahead and right click and see exactly what we need. So the black robe and the staff drop are both from the dark wizards, and we'll need to kill those to get that drop. Now, there are level 7 dark wizards and there are level 20 dark wizards, I believe. They're going to hit like a truck on us because we do not have good armor against mage. So my thoughts on what to do are probably going to be do some training on cows or something to get stats up a little bit higher, and try to raise my combat up to 41 so that we don't pull the aggro of that level 20 wizards, and that way we can just kill the level 7s real quick, not take too much damage, and get the drops that we need and get out. And on top of that, now that we have our cooking up and we figured out this better method of training cooking with the eggs and everything, I'm not going to worry about cooking the meat that I get. Instead, I'll save the meat and bank it, and then we can use that for making sinew for crafting. I think that's going to be better than taking balls of wool and spinning them, because there's not a bank very close to the balls of wool and they do not give much XP each, so I'm thinking that this is going to be better. I'm not sure if I'll bank the cowhide. I have like 300 already banked basically, and I'm not even sure how good that's going to be once we unlock a tanner, so I'll probably just bank the meat, and that'll mean longer trips too, which is nice. But so combat stats up, plus the added bonus of getting crafting XP banked for later. And we won't have to worry about food and short trips going up there for the wizards and trying to save spot them in weird ways or whatever, like, not gonna work. Then the other thing that we need to do is we need leather gloves, which if we look, it's just going to be a spawn. That's easy enough. And that'll be a nice upgrade from nothing. And pickpocketing a guard, which is 40 thieving. That might seem like a big jump from what we have currently, which is just 10 thieving for that farmer. But I actually wanted to get that farmer out of the way so that I would do this grind. I am learning from what Pelipper did in his series. He got the farmer unlocked and then he went to the ham hideout because he thought that would be a better training method to get up to 40 for the guard here. But in his videos, if you've watched them, you'll see that he gets kicked out of the ham hideout all the time, and it's terrible training rates, and he gets super unlucky with the drops and everything. So what I'd like to do is, now that we have the farmer, who is great by the way, left clickable for pickpocketing is amazing, we can do that to grind up to level 40 for the guard, and then we can go and unlock the ham hideout at some later date, and we have a much easier time getting those drops that we need from thieving because we'll have much higher thieving level by then. On top of that, having guards unlocked is nice because if we need to, we can pickpocket them for money reasons. It's going to be slow, but like it's an option if we want something that's kind of chill and AFK and not intensive. But you know, if we don't want to do woodcutting and fletching for some reason. And then on top of that, there is a master farmer in this chunk up here who will not do much for us right now, but it's nice to have that for the future so that if we want seeds, we can get seeds. Now remember that most farming is going to be basically never done as a chunk task on this account because of the fact that all farming is time locked, and because it's time locked we have no primary way to train it ever. The only way we would have to train it eventually is through Tithe Farm, and that's only if we intentionally get ourselves up to the minimum level required for that, because then that's a repeatable way to train it in a non-time gated way. But it's nice to have that so that we can grow stuff if we want to, and that'll mean that we can start growing hops in that hops patch once we do some more raking. We can go over to the allotment patch at some point south of Valador and get that. And I think that's just better than having to worry about unlocking the Draenor Market, which is where most people would think of when they think of Master Farmers. Because there's some other things that come with that that we may want to save for a little bit. So this gives us a nice benefit of having, you know, as a side benefit of doing this chunk up here. So let's go ahead and unlock that, and I'm probably just gonna get to cow killing, and once I'm done with it, we'll go check out the wizards. Alright, so I've been killing cows for quite a few hours now. It's kind of been all day actually, and I've gotten kind of bored, so I think I'm going to take a break and try out the Dark Wizards. I'm only 38 combat, so not quite 41 yet, but I feel pretty confident about my combat stats now. They're not that high level, and I'm hoping I can take them, but if not, it's not too big a deal. I just want to try them out though. But I'm done with cows for now, I think. If I come back and need more combat training, I'll kill men or something, or goblins, because as you can see I have like 600 sinew in the bank that I was just killing the cows for their meat, cooking it when I came back, and then putting it away for later when I need to spin it for the crafting grind later on if I have one. So I think it's going to be enough for quite a high crafting level, and like I was saying, I think the combat is pretty good, so let's give it a try. Alright, so just charging in there did not work, surprisingly. The level 20s obviously were still aggressive to me, and they hit way too hard, so I couldn't hit the level 7s ever, and I was not going to be able to kill the level 20s. However, I was not ready to give up yet. So I've kind of seen this thing before from some people I've watched, and I don't really know how it works, but I wanted to look into it. There's this plugin on RuneLite that shows like the aggression zones of NPCs and sets a timer for how long it takes until they're unaggressive, which is 10 minutes. And so I looked at that plugin and checked it out, and so basically what you can do is you can run into the middle of the wizard circle and kind of mark that zone as like your active zone, and then you come back out of it and you go far enough away that they're not attacking you, but you're still close enough that you're within like the zone or two nearest to it. And if you do it correctly, you can still be in their aggro zone as far as the timer is concerned without actually getting attacked. So I did that and waited 10 minutes while doing other stuff, and then I went back in, and I was perfectly fine. So now I've been able to kill the level 7s pretty easily, and it's great. There's the first drop that we needed, the normal staff. Okay, so I'm out of food on this first trip. I didn't get the rope yet, but we'll come back for that. What I can do while I'm here is I can actually start the Shield of Varrock quest with Charlie the Tramp here. He kind of wanders into the chunk, and it's debatable which side he's on, so we'll just start it while we're here. Also, while we're up here, I figured I'd go and grab the leather glove spawn that I talked about, but I don't think I can actually get to it. The spawn is upstairs in the weapon store here that's involved in the Shield of Varrock quest that I just started, but I need a partner for it, and I actually need to get further in the quest before I'm supposed to be going up here. I probably could still technically get up here, but I'm not in a rush to get it, and I technically don't really have access yet since I'd be kind of skipping that part of the quest, so I'm just going to wait until I actually get that part of the quest, which I don't think will be too long from now, and then I'll grab the leather gloves from there if I don't have them already from another source. And there's the black robe. Well, only took 2 trips, not too long. 80 or so odd kills, so not too bad. So with all the drops gotten from the Dark Wizards and my inability to get the leather gloves like I explained earlier, it was basically time to go and get the last thing done, which was the 40 thieving grind for pickpocketing a guard. So got to work on the farmers to the south chunk, and it was pretty good, honestly. Left-click pickpocketing. I mean, it took a while, but it's certainly better than having to right-click pickpocket, and the XP was better than having to right-click pickpocket on men, especially. I mean, I feel bad for anyone that would have to get a high level of thieving just from right-click pickpocketing in men, but yeah, so it was quite nice, and the fact that they were in the chunk in the area that they were worked out nicely because there was quite a few spots either near trees or down by the coast or in the little cart area that they would get stuck in a 1 or 2 tile gap, and then I could just spam click pickpocket, and it was super nice. Just look back over every now and then, heal up with some scrambled eggs that I could make right next door, which is great, and empty the coin pouches and all that, so it was really nice. So I eventually got up to 38 for the Master Farmer, which is an intermediate goal, but then eventually 40, and I could pickpocket the guard, and then we're basically done the chunk. Alright, so let's talk about the next chunk we're going to unlock. So, if you remember from the start of the episode, I've been trying to work towards Varrock, so your obvious pick for my next chunk might be number 4, the Varrock Center chunk, basically. And it's a decent option, but I'm a little bit apprehensive to pick it right now. Let's take a look at what it has to offer, though. So, you can see there's quite a few chunk tasks in the next chunk. Let's go through all of them. I know it's a little overwhelming. Just go through each one individually and make sure you understand what it is. So, wielding an adamant weapon, that's the adamant sword from the sword shop. That'd be a nice upgrade, and we already have the level for it from killing cows, so not an issue. Mithril armor is the same thing, it's from a shop, we already have the level for it, it's just an upgrade, no big deal. Maple shortbow, so that means now we can train range, because we have that range shop, so we have a primary way to train ranged. But maple shortbow isn't too high, and it would be pretty straightforward to go and kill some goblins or cows or whatever with ranged, and now we'd have access to range, which is a nice thing. So that seems good. Then we have cast wind wave, so this is my main concern with this chunk. So, because we have a magic shop now, we'll have primary training of magic. And because we have a blood rune from a dark wizard in this past chunk, we had to process that blood rune through magic. So that means casting wind wave in this case, since it's the lowest level spell that we can use a blood rune for. So that's 62 magic. It's not too bad because we have a shop to buy from, and we can buy mind and air and fire runes or whatever, and just fire strike stuff or whatever. And we actually have a staff shop too, just on the edge of the chunk to the northwest, and that means that we can save some runes and auto cast and everything, so that's pretty good. But it's kind of a long grind, and opening up magic can lead to some strange stuff, depending on which direction we go. And the fact that there's a lot of other stuff in the chunk too makes me a little bit worried that I might be missing something. So I prefer to leave it if possible. The rest of the tasks, by the way, are just basically buying best in slot stuff. So pretty inconsequential. On top of that, I know I said I'd be going to Varrock, but really, if you remember, the reason I wanted to go to Varrock mostly is because I wanted another bank, and I wanted a close anvil for when I train smithing at some point. Now, the better anvil and bank in this chunk actually isn't in this chunk. It's in the chunk to the west of it. The very edge of the city has the West Varrock Bank and the West Anvil, as well as the Cook's Guild and whatever else, but mainly those two. So if we unlocked that west chunk, actually, I think I'd be happier with the anvil set up there, and then we can come back and unlock the main Varrock chunk at some later point. Maybe it's right after even, I'm not sure, but let's do that instead. Now, we can't go straight there, obviously. We need to get there from another chunk, but instead of going to the north and then going west, we can go west and then north. We can unlock the Champions Guild chunk and then go north to there. So let's see what's in the Champions Guild chunk now. So, still quite a few tasks, but not to worry. Most of these will actually be able to not worry about because they're going to be on our backlog. So, wielding a rune weapon, rune armor, rune chain body, rune plate legs, rune sword, rune mace, all scary sounding stuff, especially since I definitely don't have the level for it, and they'd be pretty expensive. But all of them, if we look, are actually going to be from Scavo's Rune Store, which is inside the Champions Guild. And if you're not familiar, the Champions Guild requires 32 quest points. We have 2 quest points currently, so we would not be able to access any of the shops in there, including this one. So we don't have to worry about almost every single chunk task until we get 32 quest points. And when we do eventually get 32 quest points, I'm not going to be too worried about the 40 attack requirement or the 40 defense requirement or the money. I think we'll have enough of that stuff when we get 32 quest points, because it's pretty difficult to finish quests in the OneChunkMan account, so it'll probably be a while. The only task here that isn't written off in the backlog by the Champions Guild requirement is the mine silver ore requirement, which is only 20 mining. Now, we don't have to have a smithing level to smelt the silver ore yet, because we have no primary way to train smithing yet, which is good, because I am worried about smithing, so that is definitely a good thing. However, now that we are unlocking this and we have a primary way to train mining, it limits some of the mining options that we can go to in the future, and will pretty quickly result in a smithing challenge, I'm sure. So I'd prefer, if we could, to get a better way to train smithing. Now, I know we're going to be getting the anvil, the very good anvil, up just north of here, but I'd like to get a good furnace too, because currently the only furnace we have is the one in Lumbridge, and the bank is really far away. You know, up 2 stairs and down again every time you want to smith something, and that's not great. So as far as furnaces in this area that would be easy to get to, I'm looking at the Alcarud furnace. It's close to a bank, and having another bank would be great. There's a bunch of other unlocks down there too. Let's take a look. So it would be added plate legs, mithril scimitar, bronze mace. Those are great upgrades actually, and we have the levels for all of them already. And they're just buying them or picking them up from a spawn, so that seems pretty good actually. Now the only issue is getting to that chunk if we want to get to that chunk. And we talked about it in the first episode, but number 3 here, the toll gate, will require us to cut an emerald from the gem stall there, and that's going to be 27 crafting. However, since the first episode, we've made progress towards getting better crafting methods by unlocking more of the sheep pen and unlocking the cow pen, so I don't mind doing this now actually. All we have to do is shear sheep in the 3/4 or 4/5 of the pen that we have for the sheep, and craft those into balls of wool to level 10, which will be a bit of a grind, but it's not going to be painful like it is if you unlock that at the beginning and you have just the little 1/4 pen you have to deal with, because that's very frustrating. But it was very easy to shear sheep for the quest, and I imagine it's going to be very easy now for this task too, so I don't mind doing that. It's going to be done at some point, so I don't mind. And once we get to level 10, we can process that 600-ish sinew that I have in the bank. that should get me probably to level 27 if I calculated it correctly, so I think that's probably a good option going forward. So go to the toll gate, then go down to Alcrid to unlock a good furnace, then go to the Champions Guild chunk and unlock mining, then go north of there to the Cook's Guild chunk and unlock the West Varrock Bank and West Varrock Anvil to have access to a good anvil. So we have access to good anvil and good furnace, and from there, we don't need to be nearly as scared when it comes to smithing challenges anymore, because we'll have good ways to train that skill. So that's the plan, but for next episode, because this episode has gone on for quite a while. I think next episode will come pretty quickly though. I can't imagine the grinds I have taking too long, and we'll get, well, at least 4 unlocks at the base we're going now, so as always, I'd like to thank my patrons for this month, Shagohad and JLo. They have been supporting me for 2 months now, and I appreciate both of them a ton. They have been enabling me to do this, and I really appreciate it. And if you want to sign up for my Patreon, I'd appreciate it a lot. Go to patreon.com/sourcechunk to sign up. But I think that's it for this episode, so thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon for episode 3.